Hello, my health freedom loving friends and liberty loving patriots. Misty Carlfeld here with Health Freedom Idaho. I'm here with my dear friend, Kristine McCreary. It's so funny how these things that were meant for evil, God uses for good. And I make these incredible friendships and relationships in my life that I never would have had without the government intervention into people's lives, which is a terrible thing. But like God promises, he turns it and uses it for good. And this relationship that I have with Kristine is one of those benefits in life. And she's going to tell you all the other good things that she's doing. This whole beauty from ashes, I feel like I should make a series because so many mama bears and papa bears are turning around the CPS government intervention in their lives that is totally catastrophically devastating. But they turn around and use it for good to help other people. That is what Kristine is doing. And we're going to talk about that too. But so many times I do interviews and it's negative and it's a bummer and it's sad and you leave like hopeless sometimes. I try not to have it be that way, but some of this stuff is so devastating. Today is not going to be that way. So today is full of good news and hope and excitement and really good possibilities of holding the line with CPS. So with that being said, thank you for joining me today, Kristine. I'm excited to tell everybody about your good news. You have been exonerated again.
Yes, I have.
Tell everybody about it and I'll pull it up on the screen.
Sure. So we are 4 years after CPS case, and I received a letter after many requests that states that the substantiation has now been unsubstantiated and that my name has been removed from the Child Protection Central Registry.
Okay. The department has made the decision to not substantiate the incident. What does that mean exactly, Kristine?
It means that I never abused or neglected my child, which everybody knows I never did to begin with. So he spent 16 months in foster care, which is basically the timeline for funding for them. But that's a whole separate topic. He was removed from my care at his hospital bedside on January 17th, 2019. And on April 27th, 2020, the CPS case was vacated and dismissed. And then on December 7th, 2021, in my criminal case, my probation was terminated and my case was dismissed entirely.
So criminally, you've been found, completely innocent. They should have never intervened. As far as CPS, you've been found completely innocent. They should have never intervened. And now they're saying, according to the child registry, which you were on for doing absolutely nothing, because they put you on the child registry as an abuser, right out of the gate, without even being found guilty, if I remember correctly.
Right. So they put me as a level 2 for 10 years.
Shameful.
And I had been fighting this along with everything else since then for 4 years. And on April, let's see, what is this one dated? This is April 28th of 2021. A senior district judge in Canyon County did a memorandum decision citing that, the CPS judge actually never named anyone that abused or neglected my son. That was one of the biggest ones that he puts in his 12-page decision, along with stating other facts. Let's see here. We have he cites in here too that let's see, sorry, trying to find it. There's just so much that he cites in here that he says the plea in the misdemeanor criminal case does not provide evidence of a substantiation under the regulation either of abuse or designation in the regulation or of the mother's responsibility for it. So
Okay,
this
so
was also submitted
explain the
for,
plea, because there was a plea. So we might
Right.
want to explain that.
So I took a plea deal in my criminal case in order to get my son returned home to me because the state had said that their doctor wrote a statement. That it was a child abuse specialist doctor, Dr. Barton, who stated in a written statement that my son could not handle a trial. He could not handle me going through a trial, and that it would be in his best interest for me to take a plea deal and to end the case in the criminal side, and then reunification could be finalized in the CPS case.
So agree to something you're not guilty of, and then we'll give you your son back. This is why I say, people are like, well, isn't that dramatic when you say CPS is holding children for ransom? No, that's exactly what it is. Holding someone for ransom is saying, I'm going to keep this person until you do what I want. That's exactly what CPS did in this case. We're going to keep your son until you plead guilty. So in order to get back her son, she gave into the terms, the demands of the people holding her child hostage, and then she fought it after getting her son back. And that is one of the tactics. There's a few different ways to handle what's going on with CPS. And when you and I met, you were pretty far into the 15 months of hell that CPS brings on a family. And
yeah,
so,
I was, I always abided by the Child Protective Act. I never strayed away from it, but I didn't take it publicly. I thought that everything was going to be okay. They kept saying, yeah, we're going to reunify you. We're going to reunify you. And then they pressed the criminal charges.
right.
And once they did that, that's when I was like, okay. And then my visits started stopping. Things started to go really bad,
Right.
really quick. And that's when I reached out and we started talking and having meetings. And
you were arrested, right? You were even
Twice.
arrested. I mean, I
Twice.
remember when that happened, I was like, how in the world can you arrest Kristine? She's like the sweetest, most wonderful person who loves her son. And so what is the charge? And so anyway, and here it is, you've gone through, and I wanted to add one other thing. Because you were on this registry, you were no longer able to help with the children at your church, right? Like in the Sunday
Correct.
school?
Yeah.
Right.
That stopped for a few months. And then they ran a background check on me. And I didn't show up on their list from whatever background they did. So they allowed me to go and start to serve my church again.
And that's what's amazing. It's like you look at these cases where the government intervenes so hard. People are arrested without substantiated claims.
Mm-hmm.
Families are ripped apart. And then you're even affected at church where you're going to try to feed your soul during this hard time. Mm-hmm. It's just one thing after another after another. And now, after you've gotten your son back, you've had to work for how long to exonerate yourself on all these different levels?
As of now, it's been 4.5 years. It started on January 17th, 2019, the day we were separated. And now we're, 4.5 years later. This was pretty much the final dismissal paper that we needed to have that dismisses everything, all the allegations, everything there. So now they basically stated, we had thought it was substantiated, but now, no, we're unsubstantiating it. But the the senior district judge who did that, like I said, he had sent it back in April of 2021. And then he sent another one, a remitter, in June of 2021 and closed the case out. But I have been asking the child registry department since then for a copy of this letter. And I only now got it on August 31st of this year.
So insane. I just want people to let that sink in. Just not only the devastation and the recovery. I remember it took a while for you and your family to bring down the adrenaline and the fight or flight and everything's going to be okay. We're in our family and we're all back together. But then the effort to try to clear your name afterwards. It's not over and done once you have your child back at home. You're still going through the process of trying to clear your name, which you have done. And I don't think everybody goes the full length like you have, because
not everybody can, because, a lot of them have multiple children and they're scared that they could intervene again when they shouldn't be. I only have one. He's over 18. He's 19 now. And, you know, I don't have any other children. And I wanted my name to be completely cleared. I want his name to be completely cleared, because that not only do they put your information in this database, they put your child's information or the one that you abused supposedly in there too. So, you know, it's not just you that you have to look after still. It's your child still that, or whoever it is, you know, that supposedly you abused or neglected. So yeah, you know, I want both of our names to be completely cleared. And now the only thing that I have open in court is my lawsuit. So now we'll see where that goes. And it's at the moment in Supreme Court during the briefing stage. So we'll see where that goes. But
oh, I can't wait. That's so good. I mean, again, I say this all the time when I talk with you, but they poked the wrong mama bear. And here she is, tenacious. I love it.
Thank you.
And we talked about that so many times. You said over and over and over, like, I will not stop. I'm going to get my son back and I will not stop. This will not happen to other people. And here you are. A lot of people say things, but not a lot of people do things. Yeah. And you're putting your action where your mouth is. And it's not easy trying to recover everything you've had to recover. I mean, not only spiritually, emotionally, physically, but financially. I don't know that everybody understands what a burden it is financially to go through this hell.
Yeah.
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 All right. Well, let's talk about the next good news is your organization and what you're wanting to do with your organization and where it's at and how you're going to help other parents that were in the situation that you were in.
Yes. So I'm waiting for the final documents to come back. And once they're back, then I'm going to make the website live and we can do a follow-up to that as well. But it's Parents Objective with Essential Rights. So acronym is POWER.
Love that, by the way.
And thank you. And essentially what it's going to do is help parents or, you know, those who have guardianship of their children or will be able to provide an attorney to them and a medical expert to them, because essentially in court, that's the two main players that you need to help rectify a case, to help bring justice to it. And a lot of parents and guardians cannot afford them. And, you know, we're provided by the state with public defenders, but they don't always have our best interest at heart. I went through 4 attorneys before I had Johann Klaus, who fought and turned this big ship around and had justice served in the courtroom. And I am forever grateful for everything that he did for both myself and my son. You know, I literally, he had my life and his life in his hands, and he was not about to stop until we got justice. And, you know, as much as I did not want to take a plea deal because we knew how innocent I was, I had to do what I had to do to get my son home. And at that point, we could still appeal it. We could still fight it. And we did. And in the end, it was dismissed anyway. So yes, it takes a long time, but for our case, it was the right course of action to take.
Right.
So.
Right. And so you're wanting to help parents go through that process, right?
Yeah. You know, my case was not isolated. There are many others. Since our last update, there has been 6 parents and guardians that have come and reached out to me that are strictly only medical kidnap cases. And that's just been in a few months. I can only imagine the ones that can't come forward because they're scared, you know, or they have this fear, because it does get instilled in somebody, and it's a horrible feeling. You know,
how are we going to help these people raise money for attorneys? How are we going to do that?
Through this organization. So I will have, it'll be a funding campaign that's going to go up coincided with it. And they will not be, the parents and guardians won't need to put a dime out. It's going to be solely funded through the organization to establish them to have attorneys and to have a medical expert and to be represented. So because that's the biggest thing.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's it. Go ahead.
So then people will need to donate to the organization so that the organization can help the parents?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then will there be a screening process with the organization? Because, people say, but what if they're actually neglecting their child, right? And you and I
Right.
had to go through that process of researching parents that come forward and going, okay, is this
Right.
a story where the parents are innocent? Or is this a story where we're like, well, actually, we're neglecting your child. So is there going to be a screening process for parents that your organization, Power, will help certain parents
Yes.
and not other parents?
Yeah, because, obviously there are cases of abuse, there are cases of neglect, and I'm not saying that CPS is, I'm not saying we have to do away with them. I'm saying we need to make it better.
Right.
Yes, there are bad cases, and yes, that's when they need to step in. But in cases like mine, and cases like these other families where there is no abuse and neglect, they absolutely should not be stepping in. I mean, in my case, we were at the hospital for 7 days, and on the third or fourth day, we had a master social worker who came in and said, "Oh no, there's nothing wrong here." And actually in her last sentence says that no further social work was warranted. We had the same thing happen the very next day when a hospital psychiatrist came in and stated the same thing. So therefore, this doctor who overstepped and took it upon herself to make that call to CPS and do a detective just didn't even go by her colleagues' recommendations that were right there in her hospital.
Well, CPS in Idaho, we know the stats show that Idaho CPS gets it wrong 80% of the time, at least.
Yes.
And yours is one of those cases where they got it wrong.
Yeah.
And it's like, so then you have to look at the organization and go, well, how much good are you doing versus how much harm you're doing? And if you're getting it wrong 80% of the time, 80% of those people, you're destroying their lives financially, emotionally, physically, destroying their lives. So then it's like, so what is the benefit here exactly?
Right.
So anyway, I mean, I agree with you. There are children who are abused and neglected. But the way CPS is structured now with ASFA from the Clintons, it's so financially driven to take children that until there's like serious CPS reform, I just can't say that CPS is doing more good than harm.
Yeah.
At this moment, I think it could do better if the financial incentives
Absolutely.
steal children,
Yeah, it absolutely could be doing a lot better, especially when we've got social workers who are stating that if they had the time, they'd be reversing half their caseload. That means that half those caseloads for just that one social worker don't belong in foster care. So imagine if that were true of the entire CPS office at just that city. Then imagine that multiple times through the state, through the US. So that means the overall entirety, we can, there's half those children that don't belong in CPS. So 50% of them don't belong there. And there's a certain percentage of them that are medical kidnap cases, a good percentage of them.
Right.
And we've done a video on that before. So
yes. And that leads us to your medical kidnapping bill. This will really help. You and I have discussed it so much. This will really help not only help parents, but it will help CPS understand where their boundaries are. What is actually medical, a neglect, a real neglect case, and what is not, right?
Right. Yeah. And it also will be able to hold them accountable if need be when they overstep.
That's right. That's right.
So,
and it's just too broad right now. It's like, who determines what is neglect? It's just like, I've reported before that neighbors next door will say, oh, it's neglectful because the children are playing outside for too long each day. Or another parent had somebody call CPS at Costco because their child was throwing a fit. And that person presumed that the child had an ear infection that the parent wasn't treating. I mean, it's like when you have these mandatory reporting laws, which is maybe another bill we should bring, is making mandatory reporting again, going back to it being not everybody in the state, but just people like in schools or healthcare workers, things like that. And then we're not putting the burden on a neighbor to call CPS and report on what they deem as, neglectful. I think that would really help too. But anyway, you want to talk a little bit about your medical kidnap bill, where it's at? Because I think it went through the process last legislative session. So
Sure.
where are we at?
So we did do a video on that. Right now, where it ended last session was that just a few days before, possibly 2 or 3 days before session ended, we were able to get it assigned a bill number, but that's as far as it got. So it was never heard yet. And so we are bringing it back for this next session in January 2023. And Representative Tammy Nichols, who is now Senate, will be taking it on at that Senate level. I am looking for a representative to take it on a representative level. And I have a few in mind and a few that would like that opportunity to take it to their side. So with that, that's pretty much where it's at right now. You know, session is over for now, and it'll, reconvene in January. So we're hoping that we get some good results out of that and that it passes and we can, help make Idaho better and stronger. It comes down to, our upholding our constitutional rights of the individuals and, remaining steadfast in securing and protecting the sacred bond between parent and child, and or vulnerable adult for that matter. So,
yeah. And I will say Health Freedom Idaho supports this bill. We supported it last session. We'll support it again.
Yeah.
But I just want to reach out, to all the parents out there who have been affected by CPS as far as medical kidnapping. And there's a lot of you out there.
Yeah.
I mean, I've only heard from a small portion and I've heard from a lot. I mean, it can be so overwhelming that the outpouring of parents telling you their stories of how they've been affected by CPS regarding medical kidnapping. This is your time. This is your time. Mm-hmm. When this bill comes forward next legislative session, be ready to testify. It's 3 minutes. Mm-hmm. Come and tell your story. This is your time to be heard.
We've actually gotten stories that have already come in. I think we've got quite a handful of them right now, and they're
going to come and testify in person.
Yeah,
I mean, I've tried to be the voice of parents, and I'll do it all day long. I'll go and read their testimonies because they're afraid to come forward because, like you said, they're afraid CPS is going to show up at their door again.
Right.
But I would say we're in a little bit of a different era in Idaho regarding CPS. We've shined a light on it.
Yeah.
And I think this is really your time, this coming legislative session, to come and give your testimony in person and be heard.
Yeah.
And this is your part that you can do. I mean, Kristine is going major gangbusters, putting her time and energy and money into creating this new organization, right? Mm-hmm. Come and support that and show why it's so necessary and give the 3 minutes. It's just 3 minutes. Yeah. To tell your story and support, other parents and keep this.
And it doesn't even have to be 3 minutes. If you don't want to be talking that long, you don't have to. But sure.
It's really hard to get in. I'm such a jibber jabber. It's hard to get in 3 minutes, but you're right.
No, it's fine. It's fine. And the other biggest thing to do too is for the entirety of Idaho, all us regular residents here, if you're for this medical kidnap bill, reach out to your local representatives and senators. Ask them how they feel about this bill and how they're going to vote on it, and express your concerns over this issue. That's the next biggest way that people can help. And if they don't want to speak on the phone, they can email. But speaking on the phone is probably one of your better ways to do it, because then you're actually making that contact with that person. So,
and emails get lost, emails get overlooked. But a phone call, or even like, hey, can we meet for coffee? I'm going to tell you how this affected me and why this bill is so important.
Yeah, or go to one of their events that they're having when they're campaigning. There's a lot of representatives and senators that love to hear from their communities and their local members, and meet them, whether they're going at a church or the city hall ones that they have. Those are all really great to attend, and you get to learn more about them too and what they stand for. So,
well, and you make a good point. They're listening more right now while they're campaigning.
They are. Yes, they
So
are.
this
Yeah, they
is-
want to hear from us,
Yeah.
from us. You know, they want to hear what our concerns are and what we need to have changed.
Yeah, this is a good time to talk to them because they're listening.
It is, yeah.
Let's talk about the child registry. Why is this an issue, and why do you think a bill is needed?
Yeah, so we have a child registry bill coming this next session as well. Again, in January of 2023. Again, it will be headed by Tammy Nichols for Senate. So I am looking for a representative on the representative side. You know, currently Idaho is among 6 other U.S. states that does not have provisions written in their statute for expunction of child registry and neglect records from Idaho Child Protection Central Registry. And that's written on childwelfare.gov. Regardless of a court order to be removed from the Idaho Child Protection Registry, the IDHW is choosing not to remove innocent people from the registry, which is causing unnecessary harm to that individual or individuals. It's causing a significant negative impact on the individual's liberty and property interests, including the loss or denial of employment and reputation in the community. It's causing harm to the individual's ability to earn a living and may impact the individual struggling with conditions of poverty. And it's disregarding constitutional due process requirements. You know, even in my case, there's been an Idaho district judge recently that concluded that when an Idaho CPS judge does not name the alleged perpetrator with abuse or neglect, the individual shall not be added to the protection registry. Yet somehow parents and guardians are added regardless of that, and they remain on that registry. They are not removed unless that individual requests to be removed. So whether there's tiers, there's 3 tiers in the state of Idaho. There's level 1, level 2, and level 3. And level 2 is for 10 years. There's another level that's for 5 years. And then there's a level that you don't ever get off of. And so if you're innocent and you've been proven innocent and you have legal documentation from a court, from a judge, and they don't have that information and you think, oh, great, I'm off that registry because a judge says so, you're not off that registry until you get a letter like what I did.
Wow.
And this is why. So when I was having multiple conversations with the lady over at the child registry department, she informed me that they never receive court documents. So they have to come from the individual themselves. So there's a misstep between the court and or CPS DHW providing those records to the child registry. And so those people are not coming off the registry unless those individuals are contacting the registry personally. And you may have to do it, like in my case, several times.
Wow.
And you may have to provide that documentation as I did several times.
Hmm.
So, you know, people need to be aware that if they're innocent, they may think they're off the registry, but they're not unless they get a letter like that.
Wow.
And you know, in my experience, that's what I've come to learn. And that's why we need a law on Idaho Child Protection Registry. The procedures and maintenance needs to be clear. And that's why we're bringing forth a bill to make that clear and lay out the guidelines that need to be laid out.
Yeah, that's great. Another way that you're going to help parents who find themselves in the situation that you were in. So,
yeah,
I mean, that's wonderful. I appreciate that. So,
yeah,
I can imagine, I mean, I haven't read the bill, but I can imagine that Health Freedom Idaho will support that bill as well.
mm-hmm.
And then the Amber Alert bill, that's another concern for you is Amber Alert. Can you explain why this bill is necessary?
Yeah, we don't have one. We do not have an Amber Alert guideline to follow. And so there will be an Amber Alert bill being brought forth in January 2023 as well. Again, Tammy Nichols is going to represent it from the Senate side, sponsor it from the Senate side. And, you know, obviously, again, looking for a representative to take it on that side too. But it is very important, you know, we need a few words changed to be able to make that happen and become a stronger voice when we've got missing children. We have that one missing boy from Fruitland who we should have absolutely been able to activate that Amber Alert. I have heard from legislators that, we've had enough to go off of, but nobody's actually activated that. And, it's sad when you hear things like that, and it tugs at your heart so much that, we need to have something written, and we need to have it clarified with our police departments. I think having a bill brought forth and making certain aspects of the legal side being brought forth, we can make a great difference here and, be able to activate the Amber Alert when it needs to be.
And so there's no current law about that?
No, so the police go off of their guidelines from what I've been informed of. They have, you can go to their website and they activate it off of their own guidelines, which is brought down from the federal guidelines. Federal guidelines tell you to do this, this, and this, and then each state has their own that they can abide by from that. Innocent little children, they're being kidnapped or being, whatever the case may be, that we should be activating Amber Alerts for, and we're not. And I'm not just saying, let's just activate them all the time. No, obviously we have guidelines for a reason. And these guys, I agree with the guidelines that we have for the most part, but there are some words in there that need to be changed.
Well, awesome. Okay, so those are some bills, and then on your organization and your exoneration and all good stuff happening. And then again, just encouraging people to reach out to the people who are campaigning, get to know them. That might help you to know how to vote in this upcoming election. If they are in favor of holding back CPS from completely interfering when it comes to medical kidnapping and giving them some guidelines and holding them accountable when they get it wrong, that might be the person you want to vote for. If the other person is saying, CPS is doing a great job. They get it wrong 80% of the time and they lose a bunch of kids, but we love and support CPS. In fact, I heard a legislator in committee say that she was in the pocket of the department. Like, no shame in her game. I am in the health and welfare department's pocket. And they'll a lot of times just tell you straight out, no, I love the department. I think we should give them more funding. So ask them, get to know them and know how to vote, and tell your neighbors. And again, just a shout out to the people who have been affected by CPS, especially when it comes to medical kidnapping. Be prepared to support this bill because it's not going to get passed easily. The department never, ever gives up control easily. So it's going to take talking to your legislators, testifying, sharing it with your neighbors and your friends and your family, and letting them know how important it is. Kristine's going to need all the support she can get. Health Freedom Idaho is going to bring that support, so I hope you do too. Is there anything else you wanted to add today, Kristine?
I think that was it. Just kind of, get it out there and make it public awareness. My attorneys wanted me to get this out there and to just kind of recap everything. So, I definitely want to make sure that, people are aware of the issues that we face and how we can potentially help, others and make better laws and make Idaho a little bit better than what it currently is as a state. I know we need CPS for certain reasons. There are parents out there who, there is abuse, there is neglect, but for the majority of the cases, it doesn't seem to be that issue. So.
Right. Exactly right. And of course, we never want to step back and allow children to be abused or neglected, but we can definitely do better by our kids in Idaho. So I appreciate your effort, Kristine.
Thank you.
I'm so honored to know you and to be able to come alongside and support whatever you're doing. And I look forward to sharing your bills, because that's what's going to come up next, you guys. When we do another interview, it's going to be showing you her bills and why you should support them. So that will be fun. Fun stuff. It's good. I love positive news, so I'm happy to do this today. All right.
Thank you very much.
Everybody.
Thank you.